Stranger Things Season 4 Volume 2 Ending Explained. Well, that was something special. With the group split throughout states, continents, and worlds, this was certainly an explosive volume. With so much to unpack from it, let's jump straight in. Here is Stranger Things Season 4 Volume 2 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Season 4 Volume 2 picked up directly after what we witnessed in Season 4 Volume 1. Nancy was being shown everything that we saw in the closing moments of Volume 2, with the gate ripping through the entirety of Hawkins, and the Upside Down and reality merging as one. Steve was trying to get her out of the state that she was in. 11 was being shocked back into reality following the revelation of number 1 being Henry and Vecna. Mike and Will were on the hunt for Project Nina now that they had its location, and Hopper and Joyce were in Russia with Murray, as they were now trying to escape the Russian prison that had a Demogorgon on the loose. I'm going to break this video down into each of the individual arcs that need explaining. 11 and Brenner's farewell. We witnessed Mike, Will, Jonathan and Argyle spend the entirety of episode 8 trying to locate 11 at Nina, and whilst that was going on, 11 was inside Nina waking up from her discovery of Vecna. We saw that she had her powers back in full force, as she lifted Nina up with barely any effort, which weighed several tons, highlighting that her powers were back in full force. It was here where we saw a twist in Brenner's tale. We were under the impression that Brenner was now caring for 11, and wanted the best for her, rather than keeping her in the facility like a prisoner, like he did in the past. However, this was not the case. We saw Brenner double-cross Owens and aim to keep 11 locked up until she was strong enough, which he didn't believe she was. It was here where we saw the manipulative side of Brenner once again come out, and tried to twist it on 11, to blame her for Henry despite the fact that it was his fault. We got the revelation that Brenner had always wanted 11 to be searching for the darkness, so that he could one day relocate Henry, as he always believed that he was out there and not dead, which showed us that he was always using 11 for his personal gain, rather than going after the Soviets like he had said to her all along. When 11 tried to escape, he injected her, and put some kind of shock collar around her neck. As she passed out, we then saw things go up a gear. We witnessed Justin's agents come in and storm the facility, just as Brenner managed to escape, but it was here where we saw Brenner get shot down by the agents and lay there on the floor, whilst we witnessed 11 bring down the helicopter, cementing the fact that her powers were definitely back and stronger than ever, as she then reunited with Will and Mike. Brenner did one final act of kindness by releasing the shock collar from around her neck and telling her that everything he ever did, he did it for her, while stating that she was his family. It was clear to see 11 didn't agree with what he was saying or believe it, and whilst she may have been his family, he certainly wasn't hers. She looked over at Mike and Will, which confirmed that they were her family, and that they are what mattered to her. This was all done before Brenner took his last breath, as he then watched them drive off with 11 not stating to him that she understood why he did it all. I personally believe that he did think that she was strong enough. He just didn't want to let her go, because he genuinely did care for her like a daughter. What he did was wrong, but I do sense the element of care that was there from him to her. Hopper and Joyce. Hopper and Joyce spent the entirety of their time in Russia in this volume. We saw them break out of the prison after stumbling across the particles from the Upside Down that were being contained, and also a wide group of Demogorgons and Demodogs that were being held in the lab too. Their main intention was to defeat the creatures in Russia after the particles were spread into them, giving them life, and due to the fact that it acts as a hive, it would naturally weaken the battle that was taking place in the States. We saw this unfold and it went relatively smoothly. We got an epic final battle between Hopper and a Demogorgon which felt rather fitting, and like a full circle moment. We saw Joyce and Hopper also spark their romantic side back up, and then eventually go back to the US where they reunited with 11 and the group. Preparation for the battle with Vecna. Throughout the volume, we saw the group devise a plan on how best to go back inside the Upside Down and defeat Vecna. Based on what Nancy was shown by Vecna, she knew the dangers and horrors that were to come if they didn't defeat him. They decided to go back inside of the Upside Down, after realizing that Vecna had a preference for the number 4, with the clock chiming 4 times, there being 4 victims and also 4 gateways that were open. The group created a 4-phase plan which saw them split between the 2 worlds. We saw Nancy, Steve and Robin enter the Upside Down with the intention of taking out Vecna's physical presence, which didn't initially go well due to the vines latching onto them. We had Eddie and Dustin distracting the Demobats that were guarding the Krill house. This was with Eddie playing the guitar on top of the roof of his trailer, which we saw happen, and it was here where we then saw one of the saddest moments of the entire volume. Eddie sacrificed himself and didn't run away, leading Dustin to safety and taking on the entire swarm of the Demobats. This was done in order to keep the plan moving forward and progressing, whilst buying everybody time. He never viewed himself as a hero, but on this occasion he decided to step up and died for the town and the group. He genuinely cared for Chrissy and felt bad about what happened, and that's what made it even sadder. The fact that he was getting blamed for it. Eddie was a great character that in a small amount of time made a large impact and had a perfectly rounded off story. We had Lucas, Erica and Max at the Krill house in reality, where Max planned on essentially luring Vecna into her mind so that it would allow the group to strike Vecna inside of the Upside Down, when he was vulnerable and connected to the vines of the Upside Down. They assumed this based on the fact that it would be similar to 11. For example, when 11 transports into people's minds, she's left in a vulnerable state and not connected to reality. And finally, due to 11 entering the void, which essentially allows her to locate people when there's a sound for her to focus all of her energy on, like we saw in this episode, she was able to locate Max with the intention of jumping inside of her mind, to face off with Vecna again for the second time. This approach was taken due to the fact that they wouldn't make it in time to Hawkins. The battle with Vecna. The battle with Vecna occurred in the final half of the final episode. We saw 11 enter Max's mind where she arrived at a memory from when she was younger. However, there were DJ decks there from the Snowball that occurred in Season 2 of the show. The song that was played during the Snowball in Season 2 was also the one that was being played in this scene as well. However, despite feeling safe, we saw that Vecna had located Max and was aware of the 4-phase plan that was underway. Just as Vecna was getting ready to claim Max, we saw 11 arrive and lock eyes with Vecna for the first time since they fought inside of the Hawkins facility massacre. Vecna uttering the word, "you," was the perfect thing to say after they reunited after several years, and you could sense the anger and want to seek revenge on her that he had. We saw 11 look like she was going to defeat him in the moment, but Vecna was able to overpower her, and instead wanted to show her the Krill house and how he came to be. We saw that once Vecna arrived in the Upside Down after 11 banished him there, he roamed the world that he deemed unspoiled by humankind, where he then stumbled across this darkness, where he was able to utilize it and transcend his human form, and become the very predator that he always wanted to be. He morphed this darkness into the form of the Shadow Monster, and it was revealed to us that he is in fact the Flayer, and had been behind everything. It is him in his non-human form, far more powerful and in control of everything that is there. 11 created Vecna by banishing him to the Upside Down, and is thus responsible for the Mind Flayer being born as well. 11 opened the door way back at the start of the show, and it enabled Vecna to start unleashing havoc onto the world. Vecna believes that he's now going to remake the world into something far more beautiful than what it currently is, and with the gateways being open and present, he's able to do so. Love, music and happy memories was always something that weakened Vecna, and we saw that Mike speaking to 11 and telling her that he loved her was enough to strengthen 11 and then go on to defeat Vecna inside of Max's mind, where he stated that it was the beginning of the end and that 11 and the group had not won, despite thinking that they had. This was due to the fact that even if they destroyed Vecna's physical form, he would still exist in the superior form that he created in the Shadow Monster, and would be able to wreak havoc now that all of the gates had been opened. As was described earlier, if there are enough cracks in the dam, then it will give way, and that's exactly what we saw when the Earth split at the end of the volume and the two worlds merged into one. Nancy, Steve and Robin defeated Vecna in the Upside Down, burning him, as just like the Demogorgons, fire was his weakness. We saw him blast out of the window and lie there defeated. However, when the group looked back, we saw that Vecna was no longer there to be seen. I don't believe that he just got up and walked away from it. I just think that he transcended the human form and is now far greater than that, tying into what he stated to 11, that she had freed him. He was now beyond humankind and something he'd always wanted to be. We saw Max get claimed and there was a haunting moment where she was unable to see or feel anything, but she was completely present. It sounds like a living nightmare and was petrifying, and something you can only imagine. We heard that Max died for 1 whole minute, which was enough time for the final gateway to open, and thus allow the two worlds to merge into one. Eleven managed to bring Max back to life, alluding to an extra power that she may have. However, Max now lies in a coma, in a state where her mind was completely empty, as we witnessed Eleven go inside to locate her. It was intense, emotional, uplifting, inspiring, dark, provided clarity, and was everything that you wanted in a final showdown. The aftermath. The aftermath of the battle, despite seeming like it was done, was exactly like what Vecna stated. It was now the beginning of the end. When Max died for that 1 minute, that was enough time for the fourth and final gateway to open, and for a crack to form throughout the entirety of Hawkins, which led directly to the Upside Down. We saw the very shots that we saw at the start of the volume of Vecna showing Nancy the terror that would be unleashed, and the crack opening. Once this was done, we cut to 2 days later, where we saw it being referred to as an earthquake that hit Hawkins, and that Eddie was being blamed for Chrissy's murder and was presumed dead. We saw the town in ruin, with 22 lives having been claimed because of it, and many people were leaving the town based on the shots that we had of everybody driving out. Everybody was now back in Hawkins for the first time in over a season, and we saw them arrive at the hospital where we saw them visiting Max, who was in a coma and was told may never wake up. We witnessed Eleven enter her mind where there was simply nothing there, which isn't a promising sign for the future of the character. Many of the main cast went to Hopper's lodge where Eleven formerly stayed, where we saw Joyce and Hopper arrive and the group all reunite. From here, we then saw the damning future of Hawkins. We saw that Will hadn't been in Hawkins for almost a year. He hadn't felt that connection and hold that the Flayer had over him, but we saw him touch his neck like he used to, and now that he was back, he stated how he could sense Vecna's presence, and that he was not defeated. Vecna is not going to stop, not until he's taken everybody, is a line that Will stated. We saw that the first part of the final section of Vecna's plan, where we saw the floating dust that was usually present inside of the Upside Down occurring in reality, and as they walked off over the hill, the shot of a dying flower, with darkness, red lightning bolts, and ash clouds forming over a strict barrier of Hawkins was present, and the gateway had now officially been opened. This means that Vecna will be able to unleash full havoc onto Hawkins. His plan to create something more beautiful than what humankind has built is dangerous, and with the gateway having been opened and no longer being needed, it's now part of the physical world. It's a dangerous time to live in Hawkins. The two worlds have collided, and a war of the worlds, darkness versus light, and good versus evil is likely to unfold in the final season of Stranger Things. So, there you have it, Stranger Things Season 4 Volume 2, Ending Explained. If you want to see much more Stranger Things content such as Volume 1 Ending Explained, theories and predictions, or character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find a wide array of content on the show. If you'd like to tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next, then head over to my Twitter, @BrainPilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of Season 4 Volume 2? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.